Hey, I am joined today again by, we can just call him a co-host at this point. AJ Jackson is going to come back through. We're going to talk about 6A, some of the players also who just recently signed to go play at the next level. And so if you're watching this live, we're on YouTube and we're also on Twitter. So please chime in with some questions and some comments. Let's get going.
This is the Utah High School Hoops Podcast, your source for sometimes informative, but always entertaining coverage of the Utah High School hoop scene. With your host, Adam Meek.
All right, we're getting fancier here, AJ, as I figure out the podcast tools. I don't actually do so. I think I mentioned this a couple times, but I get to host this packaging podcast, which takes me literally all around the world. So in 2 weeks, I get to go meet with the United Nations in Dubai, and
that's not bad.
Talk with them about climate change, and I was just in Chicago, and so I have this whole other packaging life that I thoroughly enjoy. If you're into packaging, then hit me up. But I don't do a ton of them live, like a lot of my podcasts live. I really like the dynamic of the sports one live that we're doing. I think it's actually pretty fun. Most of my interviews I do 6-8 weeks ago, and then I put them out on my packaging podcast. So this one's a little bit different. Thanks for rolling with us. If you've been following the podcast here since it started, we've got the man, the myth, the Northern Utah Ballers legend, AJ Jackson joining us.
The guy that's full of a lot of information, and I don't even know how I got there, but I appreciate you having me on. It's a great time.
Yeah, no, it's exciting, and some cool things are happening. So in a week, we've got Hoop Fest coming here. I was actually going to pull up that schedule. We're going to get into the 5A stuff. Or I'm sorry, 6A. Sorry, you're like 5A. We already talked about that. Talk about 6A. We might be joined by Landen Cummings. He was going to be running late. What's up, Kev? Dang. Kev, I'm not going to lie. I just thought you'd come through for the 5A. But we got to get you on. We got to have Team Mom Kev come on the podcast.
Love it.
But yeah, we've got a whole bunch of teams. I know just off the top of my head, you've got Montverde coming, Sunrise Christian. There's a Link Academy is going to be here, and they're playing, American Fork and Wasatch. So it's going to be great. It's going to be down at Pleasant Grove next week. I actually get to go do some live podcasting down there. So that was pretty fun to be a part of the media here in Utah. So everyone go check that out. Come out and support your it's great. Games are on ESPN. We got local kids being able to play on a big time stage. So
yeah, it's going to be amazing down there. The amount of talent that's going to roll through those gyms is insane when you think about it. Cooper Flag's going to be here, but you're going to want to go check out Wasatch Academy. I don't think people realize how good somebody like an Isaiah Harwell is. And obviously we watched him grow up, played against him in Youngblood, and the team that they have over at Wasatch is phenomenal. And basically you're watching a bunch of future pros, and Isaiah is included in that list. So it's going to be exciting. Orem's going to hit the floor during the week there, and so obviously American Fork, and it's going to be a great week. I'm excited to see it. I'm trying to rearrange my work schedule so that I'm posted up down at PG all week. So we'll see what happens.
I love it. And I did confirm. Actually, it was a fun, happy accident today. So I was flying back from Chicago from my work trip, and I saw where my gate was at O'Hare. And then I knew my sister, Kristen Peak, was flying to Chicago to cover the Duke, Michigan State, Kentucky, Kansas games that are happening tonight. Gig. It's tough. It's a tough life. So I was like, I wonder where she's landing, because I thought it was around the same time I was leaving, and it was the next gate. So it was like this flight coming in from Salt Lake City was right here, and I was just standing there. I was like, hey. She's like, oh my gosh. So I did confirm we're going to have her come on the podcast to talk about a lot of the players. I think everybody sort of knows about Cooper Flag, but just who are the other players that we should be looking out for when we go down there? Because she's got her finger on the pulse of, NBA draft risers that are starting in high school. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we're gonna have her on, and even potentially the organizers of Hoop Fest are gonna come on and talk. So some cool things coming up. So Kev says she's only extroverted in chat. Well, then you can stay as our super chatter, Kev. That would be fantastic.
Yeah. Let me share a story real quick, if you don't mind. Though we were at Woods Cross parent meeting, and Ronnie Price, who obviously played at UVU, had a stint with the Jazz, Sacramento, some of those other teams. Yeah, so we actually got a chance to, and he talked a lot about his relationship with Kobe, actually. But he spoke for an hour in front of the team and obviously the parents. And if you ever get a chance to meet Ronnie Price or to have a conversation with him, he lives here in North Salt Lake, and so you probably see him around. Take that opportunity, and because he is one of the most impressive human beings I've ever come across. Like, he had everybody just locked and loaded on his story, but also about what matters. And from a parent standpoint, basically his message was, you've run your race. And I've been saying this for a long time. Let your kids run theirs. Mm-hmm. And they're going to go through adversity. They're going to deal with ups and downs. Let them run their race. Stay out of it. Your race is over, right? And a lot of times as parents, we're like, we want to be, whether it's reliving dreams through our kids or whatever. You see a lot of that. You hear a lot of people talk about that, but it was a fantastic message. And so if you ever get a chance to come across Ronnie Price, stop him and talk to him. He's a special human being. So that was pretty fun. That was
I echo that 1,000%. We've got, we agree, Kev, he's awesome. Ronnie did a couple of just like training sessions with AJ and Isaiah. Mm-hmm. And so I remember getting up early on Saturday and, some of the stories that he would just tell, like just tell the boys, like he's a really tremendous dude, and a guy, awesome. I think to your point, that just gets it, I mean, he just, like, even talking about his own kids, he's like, I don't know, maybe, they might be soccer players. We'll figure it out. Right. I heard his son's pretty good though. I think he plays with Salt City Hustle. Yeah.
He's the middle school here in the local area where we are. So he's funny when he talks about his own kids too, because even from his standpoint, right? Like, he's former professional athlete, played in the NBA for 12, 13 years, and you just got to hold yourself back and just let these kids play and let them do their thing. And because the ball's going to stop bouncing, right? For all these kids, it's going to stop bouncing. You can go down the list and say, oh, he's a future pro. I mean, but the margin is just so slim for the people who actually make it. And obviously your sister could speak to that, probably more than I could, but let them just play, sit back, enjoy the ride. It's going to be a fantastic year in 4A, 5A, 6A. We're going to talk about 6A, but it was really a good message. It was fun to listen to, and he's a workhorse, and he's got a lot of good information to share. So get him on this podcast. I'd love to hear you chop it up.
No doubt.
That'd be awesome.
No doubt. That would be great. Hey, before looks like Landon was able to join us, and before we pull him up here, I'm not sure if his Landon, if your camera's working. Okay, cool. I was just making sure. We'll pull you up here in a second. We're going to talk about 6A, kind of go through similar to what we did with 5A. Just sort of go through some of the top 10 teams on the Prep Hoop site. But I think it's cool to be able to shout out some of these players. Listen, anytime you can sign an agreement to go play basketball at the next level, it should be celebrated. It's a really big deal. It's incredibly hard. And so I know we've had a couple of players, I think recently, signed to, I saw, was it Tanner Davis is going to, is it Utah Tech?
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, just in the gold program alone, you had Chris Cox signed with Utah State, Tanner Davis at Utah Tech, Owen Mackey also going to Utah Tech. So you got a couple of really good guards there. Obviously, with Tiger carrying on the tradition, going to Weber State, following in his dad's footsteps. I knew that was coming. He was on the official from at UC San Diego, and I was like, there's just no way that Weber State's going to let him get away. But a couple that I really, really love is you got Blake Rawson, and Ace Reiser going to CSI.
CSI, yeah.
So up in Twin, which I love because for work I spend a lot of time up in Twin Falls. So I'm super excited to just plan my trips around watching Ace and Blake do their thing up there. So I mean, CSI has really done a good job of recruiting here in state as well, and obviously they got a lot of really good competition with Snow and Slick and those schools. But yeah, it's so fun to see. And obviously you got Jackson Johnson signing it at Utah and you know, the USC signings with, I mean, there's just so much good going on right now. It's a great time. It's a great time.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to pull Coach Landen on up here. What's up? Oh, look, it says ow next to you. That was,
it says ow.
It was on the screen. It just says ow. So what's up, Landen?
Hey man, how are you? Thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited. I've loved what you've done in the first 2 episodes, and it's
bro, you haven't even. I just keep cranking them out. I'm just like I'm just a machine over here.
Just got a factory of a podcast and insightful information. I mean, when you first told me about it, and I listened to that first episode, I knew if anybody other than AJ could produce a quality podcast about Utah high school basketball, it would be you, with your insight and the exposure and some of the events you've been able to be around through, you know, AJ and Congo and some of those other things, obviously with Tim Drisdom and Sean and just the gauntlet of guys that you have access to. So I knew that it would be a good listen. And I'm not even a podcaster. I don't even listen to podcasts. I actually had to download a podcast app just to listen to episode 1, but I'm subscribed and I'm excited, man. And I think
love it.
You have great intentions with this, and obviously AJ and I got to spend a ton of time together over the spring and summer, and I got to know he's a very knowledgeable, very insightful, very neutral party when it comes time to talk sports. And
listen,
I try to be right. I try to be.
Like,
I mean,
that's at the end.
I mean, he does like that Woods Cross program quite a bit, but we've had some good conversations.
You're gonna be really unbiased about Bingham when we get to them here. What are they?
Oh, these guys. These guys?
Sure. Yeah, exactly. You come on. Right, I wore my Powder League shirt at least. And by the way, this is true. In case you're wondering, these are actual Big Baller brand shoes.
Okay. Those are nice.
I mean, they're not. They're horrible. The quality is not good, but I had to support the hustle and support the culture. I was a fan of that. So, awesome. Anyway, man, yeah. So Landen and I, just in case anybody cares, and probably nobody does, but in case you do, Landen was one of the first people I met 5 years ago, and I moved out here when AJ wanted to play. He just played rec ball in Colorado Springs. I think he was in 5th grade. And so I just was like Googling things. By the way, it's really hard to move here and figure out the basketball landscape. You got to move and shake and show up places. And there's not like a easy website. Even like the junior jazz stuff was hard to find. So we go out, very first practice. It's 5th grade. It's like a thunder lightning storm at an outdoor court. Landen's not even there. It's some other guy. And AJ got to play with still one of his good friends today, Ian McIntyre, who's over at West Jordan. And AJ got to play with him, and they hit it off, and they played together for a number of years with Utah Legacy. And Landen and I are the only 2 Denver Nuggets fans that exist in the state of Utah. So we just get to gloat. This basketball behind me is actually signed by LaFonso Ellis, Walter Davis, and Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf.
I think it's me, you, and Jason.
Oh, Jason Gardner. Yeah.
Jason. I think we're the 3.
Oh, this is the new thing. When you do this, it like does stuff. Have you seen that on your phone? It like gives a thumbs up. It's weird. Some new thing that Apple just put on their deal. So don't do too many thumbs up, or else you might explode. Well, hey, I think people probably want us to get to what we said we were going to talk to, which is a 6A just preview going through. And obviously, just like 5A, 6A is stacked this year. So I'm going to go 10-1 from the Prep Hoops site. Again, shout out to the team over at Prep Hoops. They do a good job covering, putting our boys on, getting them stuff to share, giving us some shine. So really appreciate all that.
Can I speak to that real quick, Adam? Do you mind?
Please do.
You see, and it's funny because somebody brought to my attention on my page the other day some rankings. There's a lot of people that complain. There's a lot of people that try and put rankings together. Spend the money and subscribe to Prep Hoops. Those guys do a good job. And you might argue a spot or two here and there. Well, let's be honest. They're pretty close.
They're pretty spot on.
They're pretty spot on. And I saw some rankings the other day where it was the top 25 and they had Lehigh at like 22nd.
Oh, I know. I saw that. I was like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, I'm like, okay, come on, guys. Like, Prep Hoops is the source for, that kind of content. So those guys, I mean, I know they take a lot of heat, but you know what? They are providing good content and it's almost daily. So go check them out. I mean, they do a great job, and I don't get paid to say that. I'm just telling you, that's a good resource for Utah Hoops for sure.
The other thing I like about Prep Hoops is they put the work into their posts. So
sure.
I coach a team, so we'll be playing over the spring and summer with the Puma group in their inaugural season. And I had an event for 16U guys that were working out for me. And one of the guys says, "Hey, coach, where am I at in the top 100 ranking?" Yep. And so I go look it up and I call him back and I said, "You're not on there." And he's like, "But why am I not on there?" And I said, "What did you do to be seen by the guys who do these rankings? You weren't at West Coast Elite. You weren't at the Prep Hoops camp. You didn't do this. You didn't do that." Like the avenues that have been created for the best players essentially in our state, you weren't at any of those events, so they don't have any reason to rank you. They're not just throwing blind rankings out. Now, sometimes, a kid might get a ranking that we're kind of like, that may fluctuate, but it's opinion based. But at the end of the day, I really like that the people who make those rankings are at a lot of things that we got going, like left and right. You see the same faces at these events with the best players, and I think they're doing a great job. So keep up the good work, whoever's over there doing the rankings and getting those posts out.
Yeah, and just to players who might be listening to this or watching it, this is what I said this to AJ, I said this to Solomon King. I'm like, listen, the rankings only matter if they motivate you. Right. So it's awesome to have them. Right. Like, it's really cool. I know the boys love sharing it. It's really cool work. Also, I don't know if any coaches are going to call and say, "Hey, but what's your Prep Hoops ranking?" Right. Like, they want to see the film, they want to talk to your coach. Like, you have to actually you have to do both. Right. So if you see the rankings and you're up there and you're like, "Nah, I know I'm better than him." Cool. It motivates you. If you see the rankings and you're like, "Man, I knew it. I don't know how to do anything." Then don't worry about it, because it's not motivating you to get better. So just that's my PSA on that. All right, let's get into it. So number 10, I think I can share my screen if that's at all helpful real quick, and we can let's see what happens when oh man, did you see how slick that was? Oh, that's not very, hang on. Can I zoom? Can we zoom in here? Look at this. Okay. All right. Maybe. Perfect.
I like it. Let's roll. Okay. Let's talk about Fremont for a second, though. That notable team. I want to talk about those guys.
Let's do it.
So, I mean, obviously, they have Fremont ranked just outside of the top 10 here with Prep Hoops. But when you talk about Fremont, obviously everything's centered around Hunter Hansen. Weber State commit. That's another guy we should have brought up, but he's committed to Weber State. Coming off an injury. I saw him play at Utah State camp. He looked really, really good. Obviously, that team's going to go as far as he takes them, but they do have some good pieces around him. Jackson Slaws at 2025. He's going to have to step up and play big minutes for them on the wing. And then a kid that I like, Easton Duff, the point guard position. He's not going to go get you 20 points, but he's going to pick you up full court. He's going to be gritty. He's going to get the ball to the right people. I think Fremont's a team that you're going to want to watch. They have a tough region. You look at that region. We'll talk about a few of those in this top 10, but Fremont's going to be a good team this year, and they're going to surprise some people. They're going to surprise some teams, on any given night when, they're going to give some people some losses that they may not have expected, especially in that region, because that region is always a toss-up. But Hunter Hansen's, he's a tough kid. I expect him to come back and have a great, especially during region play, a great senior season as he heads off to Weber State. So,
well, we got those guys on Friday. So if you got any more insight, I'm open to it. I'm all ears right now.
I love it.
Because he gave us a fit last year. Hansen's a heck of a player, man. He does it on all three levels. He gets to the basket. He's strong. He plays under control. He's got, D1, if not NBA range. And he's got probably his biggest attribute is he plays with a ton of confidence. His coaches give him confidence. His teammates, support him and give him the ball in the spots that he needs it to be efficient. And he gave us a fit last year. So we're going to go up there on Friday and try to return the favor. But he's one of those guys that you like to coach against and you like your players to get to play against, because he definitely impacts the game on multiple levels. So he's fun to coach against. And I don't know, and I know that they lost a few guys last year, but he's back. I don't know if they're outside of that top 10, but again, rankings are subjective, but he's definitely got them as one of the best teams in 6A for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he's a guy that's good enough to carry that team to a win by himself, right?
Yeah,
he's one of those guys. I watching him play last year at Fremont, and the Fremont kids that'll watch this are going to laugh at this because there was a big snowball fight after Woods Cross took Fremont out at Fremont after the game. It was crazy. There was a lot
always
of
comes back to Woods Cross with
always,
yeah, right?
Always.
But the point I bring up is watching him play. That was the first time I seen him in person. Is he looks different, right? When you look at a kid that's a D1 talent, they're just different. They move different. They cut different, and he's that guy. He's definitely that guy.
Well, hey, I want to make sure that we get through. I think last time we did the 5A, we could probably break this up and we could take an hour and just talk about the top 5. We got to the top and it was like, yeah, and I think Alta's going to be pretty good. So next we're going to be but kind of speaking of Hunter, we've got Hunter Shank up at Weber. I said Weber when I first moved here. Speaking of moving to Utah and not knowing how to pronounce things. But this is a team obviously that is been on the come up. I know they had a bit of a rough year last year. Got to watch Malachi play a little bit with Congo. Hunter's obviously just an absolute scorer. And I have to put one of my favorite players in the entire state of Utah out there in Jordan Oberholzer. This kid, I'm telling you what, we played a game and it was just kind of a grimy game. I think it was a team from Maryland on the UA Rise circuit. We get in the second half. It was pretty close. And Jordan is a talker, and he just plays at his own pace. He's left-handed. He doesn't like jump off the page with his some insane athleticism or whatever. Knockdown shooter, sees the court better than almost anybody that I've seen. And Jordan starts talking back to these kids. And not only that, but he backed it up, and he had about 15 in the second half, and really carried that team. And that was a loaded team, with Isaiah and Soren and Coley and Moss over at Utah Prep. Jordan carried that team for a couple of games. So I'm excited to watch him play. Judge has them, I think, on December 1st. So that'll be a fun game. But why don't you guys talk a little bit about Hunter and or Malachi or any other player for that matter? I'm sure I know they've got some talent up there. Did you guys want to add anything to that?
Oh, up at Weber.
Yeah.
So I've only got to see Weber play in a few of the tournaments. I didn't get a lot of time to watch them, so I don't know a ton about them. AJ's the up north guy, so I'm gonna kind of defer to him on the up north teams and let him take the reins on that.
One thing. At Gooch Ice on Instagram. He'd always jump into my stupid videos. Jordan would. Yo, at Gooch Ice on Instagram.
That's funny.
Calm down, Jordan.
So obviously, if you haven't been under a rock, you know what Hunter Shank's about, right? 3-level scorer. He's a Utah Tech kid, going down there, well deserved. Really, really good player. I had a chance to coach Malachi in the Great Western Classic. He was on our squad. He is the X factor for Weber.
Mm-hmm.
If he plays with a high energy, if he has a high motor, they will be better than you think going into the season. Malachi has the ability athletically to grab every rebound, to finish at the cup. He can shoot from the three. He can slice to the basket. It just and he knows this because I've talked to him about it. I've had some conversations. He is a next level talent. That motor has to run hot though. He's got to have that hot motor at all times on the floor because there's no reason he shouldn't be, a double guy, and that'll get him to that next level, which I know he wants. So when you watch Weber, watch what Malachi does, because if he's playing at a high level and his temperature's hot, he's playing with an edge, they're going to be good because Hunter can fill it up. And you obviously, if Jordan gets the minutes, they bring him up there. And obviously they're working through that right now from what I hear. They're going to be a decent team. Obviously Jordan brings an element, at the PG where he can distribute the basketball, let Hunter kind of, do his thing. But Malachi is the key with that team for sure,
agree.
I think.
I agree. Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to watch them play. And actually, team number 9 is another team that I know everyone around Utah is probably familiar with up at Davis. I've been able to see some of the kids play just through my son played on a young blood team with a bunch of the Davis kids who are, they're all 2026 kids. Davis is loaded from the top down in terms of their program. They really do a good job building up that program. And Landen, Davis plays at West Jordan, I think, next week, I think on Tuesday. So AJ was wanting to go check him out, but we got another team up there in it's Davis County, right? That's what the county's called. I mean, obviously, I think we even talked a little bit about Coleman Atwater during the Utah Top 50 breakdown. Is it Bodie Sparrow? Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen him all over in terms of football. He seems to be an incredible football talent. AJ played against Bodie in a game when his team was playing up, and he is tough. I mean, it's not surprising that he's a great football player, right? To get out on the court as a freshman at Davis would be quite an accomplishment. But anyway, that's kind of what I know about Davis. They play a really disciplined style of basketball, and well coached, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you look at so you look at a guy like Zach Fisher, and the fact that his recruiting hasn't taken off the way I think it should is really mind blowing. He's a tremendous athlete, 6'7", I think is what he measures at. If you watch him last year during the season, and then you watched him play with Utah Gold, which I had a front row seat, Landon, you did too. Zach Fisher can play. He's and if you watched him in the top 50, he was as good as anybody on that floor. He is going to have a monster year. Coleman's going to have a great year. Coleman is solid as they come. He can knock down shots. He can distribute the basketball. Easton Rouse, you see it right there. I think he transferred over from Farmington, I believe, brings them some size. And then obviously you got some role players. If Bodie can crack that lineup, Bodie's the number 1 ranked 2027. But Zach Fisher is the key with that squad because I think he's the real deal. And somebody's going to come along and snatch him up at the next level, and they're going to have a steal because Zach Fisher can hoop.
Yeah,
that's
awesome. So we got them on January 3rd. So keep talking.
Right?
No,
and it's only on here, so he doesn't have to do a scouting report.
I'm literally on here just scouting and getting intel.
That's so funny.
I love Zach's game. I reached out to Zach and told him that I'm going to help him out if I know guys that are looking for players with his skill set, because he literally can do everything on the floor, and he can guard multiple positions. He can shoot. He can create off the dribble. He's not a selfish player for how big and strong he is. He really plays with a lot of finesse and a lot of touch. His jumper bounces around the rim if it touches anything. He finishes both hands. He's a coach's dream offensively, and then at his size, strength, and and his mobility, he can guard multiple positions on that perimeter and even small post players. So the fact that he's not getting recruited heavily is surprising, shocking, but somebody's going to find him and he's going to land in the right spot. And Coleman's a handful. Coleman is definitely one of the best guards that I've got to watch in person on a regular basis over the spring and summer, and he'll be a handful. We've got a couple of good guards that'll battle back and forth with him up and down the court, but that's going to be a fun game to coach. And
this is me moving us along, LC.
Yep, go ahead. No, you're good.
I'm just playing with you.
I like it because we play number 8 twice this year, so let's go ahead and move to them.
There we go.
This does, I just was realizing the setup is kind of like the Manning cast on Monday Night Football. Except we're not nearly as entertaining as they are.
And we can't change that person in the middle. We got to keep him in there.
Yeah,
I think they had 4 different guests on that during the game. I think 3 or 4 different people came on.
Yeah, I hit up. I was like, Taylor, do you want to come on? And she was like, I can't. I'm sorry. I was like, dang it. So no Taylor Swift.
Next week.
Oddly enough, tomorrow morning I am interviewing. His name's Wyatt Russell. He plays Captain America in the Marvel show, Falcon and Winter Soldier. His dad's Kurt Russell, mom's Goldie Hawn. I'm interviewing him tomorrow for my packaging podcast, so that's kind of fun.
Wow.
No Taylor Swift, but it's
a close consolation.
Yeah. There's no way to transition then to Harriman, but so we got Harriman. Again, we've talked about Ike Palmer. We talked about him in the Utah top 50. He is. I think he's taken a pretty big leap this year. And if you didn't go back and listen to the Utah top 50 breakdown, where I thought AJ did a great job. 2 players on here. I don't know, because again, I'm trying to learn about some of these players. Is Cale Barclay and Malcolm Johnson. Been able to follow Carlo because he's a 2026 kid, but tell me what you guys know about Harriman. Why do you think Harriman would be maybe higher ranked than a Davis or Weber or Fremont?
Go ahead, LC.
I think Carlo's upside is tremendous. I think the kid gets it. He comes from a high basketball IQ family, obviously, with Jordan Spencer and their involvement with the Hustle program. Also, I think that their ability to create good players within their system dynamic with the new coach that they brought in. I was able to see some of those guys play over the spring and summer at team camp, and the players are excited about the new system, the new coaching, and I think they've already bought in, and that coach is going to bring out another level of confidence and ability in those guys after having a year to play together with Carlos starting varsity as a freshman. I think they've got a ton of potential, and the most important player is bought into the system, which is the point guard, and so it's all easy for him there. So I think they're going to be competitive. We're excited to have them in our region this year because the last couple of years they weren't ultra competitive, but we're definitely expecting a lot more fight and competitiveness from them this year.
Got it.
Yeah. I mean, just echoing what LC said there. If you look at Harriman, obviously, here's what I think of when I see Harriman. They have guys that can create matchup problems for other teams. Ike Palmer can do a lot of things. He can step out, shoot the 3. He can get to the basket. He can shoot a mid-range. Cale, obviously, I watched him play over the summer with UBC a couple of times. Really improved his overall game as far as stepping out, knocking down the 3. He's a big body. He can go inside. He can rebound well. Malcolm Johnson is and it says there, is a game changer. I think he, much like Malachi at Weber, is going to really determine how far these guys go with his energy, with his effort. But obviously, I'm a huge fan of the point guard. Obviously, like LC said, Carlo, in my mind, when I think of a dog and that edge that you need to have as a leader, as a point guard, he has all of that. And I think that he is ready to have a huge year and lead these guys. Now, I don't think that you're gonna place them in the title contender stage until later in the season. But I think if they keep growing and improving and just stay hungry, they're capable of making a run in that state tournament and really giving some of these other teams some problems when that tournament comes. But it's going to take, it's going to take step by step to get there, I think. But they have some guys.
We can skip over number 7.
Underrated. Underrated. Move those guys up.
Number 7. All right, Landon. You obviously is this your second or third year coaching at Bingham?
This is second year.
Second year coaching at Bingham. Why don't you tell us, Landon, about a little bit about Bingham this year? You can't give away too much though, because you got to play Harriman, you got to play
Davis.
Yeah.
Play all these guys.
Yeah.
We're excited, man. I think the things that created issues last season, I think we have a different core. I think we have a different energy. I think the synergy of some of our JV guys who kind of got their feet wet in that varsity exposure last year, moving up into that varsity level and being our big minute guys, they are going to play the game a little bit different. I think the ball movement, the ability to create shots is going to be there. Obviously, not having Braden is going to change the way we defend, but I think we've got guys that are bought in defensively that are going to step up and accept the challenges of some of these opponents that we're getting. And we got a big addition with Tate transferring over from Corner Canyon and giving us depth and giving us playmaking and giving us another guy who can knock down shots. And obviously the show will, similar to Hunter Hansen up at Fremont, we have Luke and we have Stockton and we have some guys that play at a high level, play with those motors. We've got, Riken ready to protect the middle, but he's worked on his versatility and ability to step away from the basket and face up and do some different things. So we're excited. We've got a lot of depth. We've got a lot of energy. We've got guys that are excited to play defense and not try to outscore everybody, but try to keep teams from scoring. And I think that's going to be a big thing as we get into our season. So we're excited. We got a lot of energy and a lot of excitement around the season coming up.
I mean, listen, if you can, in high school basketball, right, if you can make shots, if you can limit turnovers, if you can have good, solid guard play, and if you can play team defense for, a solid amount of team defense, you're going to win a lot of games. And it sounds like that's, you've got a pretty good recipe over there.
Yeah, definitely. We're excited.
We're great.
Excited for sure.
AJ, do you want to add anything, or should we head on up to Farmington?
I mean, pretty simple, right? I'm a huge Luke West fan. He's one of my favorite players in the state. If he can take that next step, obviously he's battled through injuries throughout the summer, but if he can take that next step, watched you guys play at Great Western Classic. I think it was against one of the prep teams, and he just looked different out there. He was scoring, got a couple of and ones, hit a couple of jump shots. He's got that right to left cross, the pull up. I think Luke, if he can take the next step, I think obviously that region's tough, but Bingham's just the way that they're just a bunch of dogs, right? So they're going to be there, and obviously adding some shooting on the perimeter with Bowman coming over, catch and shoot guy. Got a chance to see him play this summer a lot too. So I think that's a good team. They're going to have some guys like Landon said. Yeah.
All right, let's keep. We're almost to the top 5, and we are 38 minutes in. So we'll keep cruising. AJ, we'll kick this one over to you up at Farmington. I'm sure you're pretty familiar with this crew. Tell me what should we be looking out for with Farmington?
Yeah, AJ,
AJ, we got these guys December 12th. So
I got you. Here we go. You ready?
Hey,
there we go.
Give me whatever you got.
So here's what you can expect. You can expect Paul Beatty to play your best guard. Okay, and I'm not kidding when I say that, because we actually played them a couple times, and what they can do, and it works because Paul can move laterally. He's very athletic. He's long. He's 6'8", 6'7", 6'8".
6'8".
But when Atkinson's in there, they can put Atkinson underneath the basket to protect
the
rim.
Left? Is that the lefty guy?
Yep.
Yeah, he's tough.
Good size, can shoot it.
Yeah.
But what defensively they're allowed to do is they can put Paul on maybe your athletic guard, and he'll run around with him, and then still have Atkinson protecting the basket. So they pose some problems when they can roll that lineup out there. Jaden Haskell's another guy that he's got a quirky looking shot, but I've seen him hit 7, 8 threes in a row. He can absolutely shoot the ball. And they've got a bunch of guards. And it mentions Drake here, but there was another guy, he's Ethan, can't remember his last name, slipping my mind, but they have some other guards that are, if you don't watch out, they're gonna get you because they slice to the basket. They can take it off the floor, off the dribble and get to the basket. But Paul and Ethan and Haskell, that team's tough. They got some players, and I'll tell you, they're senior heavy, and they have been working their tails off. We scrimmaged a bunch with them, played open gym with them a bunch over the summer, so I'm very familiar with these guys. They want a run at the title, and that's what their whole goal is. That's what they've been working for. And they've got some interesting pieces that are going to allow them to do some different things that some of these other teams can't do. And again, I just mentioned one of them where they can pull Paul out, have him guard on the perimeter, chase around your best guard, and have Ethan underneath the basket protecting the paint. And then you got other guys that can light it up too. So they're a very intriguing team heading into this season. They're senior heavy. We're going to see what they're going to be able to do in that region. It's going to be fun.
I love it.
Shout out to Drake. He's been a social media follower of mine since he was in 6th grade. I love that kid's game, and I'm excited to coach against him. Shout out to you, Drake, if you watch this or if you listen to it. Hey,
started from the bottom. Now we're here at number 5. Do you see that? Do you see how I pulled it right through? Shout out to Drake. Never mind. Layton High School coming in at number 5. Nobody is sleeping on Layton. These are names that wait, I did not know this. I clearly don't listen. I didn't even reread this. I did not know that David Katoa was going to be playing at Layton High School. Holy cow. All right. This team looks pretty stacked up there. And I know these names. Like I said, I should have read this beforehand. Darn job and family getting in the way of preparing. But these are all names that I think people know. Do we expect Layton to be in the mix come semifinals and finals? No one would be surprised if Layton was in the championship game.
So, no, LC, if you want to take this one, you can, but I'm high on Layton. Very well coached. Kelby Miller, he knows what he's doing. He's been around this game for a long time. Obviously, when you got a guy like Mekhi Martin, who literally was averaging 30-plus points a game during the fall because KJ was out for a while recovering from an injury, and obviously David's coming back too. So, watching what Mekhi has done and his evolution, taking that next step, and you throw KJ back into the mix, who I think will hit 75-plus threes this year. And then it says nobody's sleeping on Layton, but I think everybody in Utah has forgotten just how good David Katoa is.
Right. I was sleeping on him. I was like, wait a second. What?
The guy is committed to the University of Utah as a junior. He is phenomenal. And if he can get back to form defensively, he's going to be a terror on anybody that they play. And then you add somebody like a Sam Romer, who's actually taking the next steps for his game. He's a 2025, really adding some versatility. That big 3 is enough to carry them all the way to the end. I 100% think that Layton is going to have something to say with 6A by the time it's all said and done. Obviously, they got to have everything fall into place. KJ's coming off an injury. David's got to round into form. Mekhi, I want to see him distribute the basketball and he's going to have to because, you're not going to get that kind of shot volume with the Katoa and a KJ Miller back in the lineup, but I think he's more than capable of doing that. He's very skilled. But this big 3, this number 5 team is super scary.
No one wants to see that in the playoffs. No, in a single elimination playoff, you don't want to see those 3 guys out there on the court.
You don't want to see that big 3.
Nope. Yeah. Mekhi's he's a hooper, man. He gets it done so many different ways, and obviously, like AJ said, he's not going to carry that big of a load once those guys get back. But I think they get through their non-region and work these guys back into rhythm. We played David when he was healthy before the injury last year, and he's an absolute monster. Defensively, he's a monster. He covers so much ground. He gets off the ground so quick. His anticipation, his ability to shoot, his ability to use that big upper body and those broad shoulders to get where he wants and just elevate over guys. And then he gets out in transition and just puts on a show. And so he's super fun to watch, and luckily we don't have them on the schedule this year. But KJ, he's one of those guys you've always got to account for, and shooters like him make you change the way you play defense, right? You can't help off, you can't double down on his side, and they're always looking to move him and run him off ball action to get him the ball so he can shoot, and he's got so much range that I think once everybody's healthy, these guys get into January and February healthy, they're going to be scary, and they're going to make some noise for sure.
Tough.
All right. We are heading on up to the number 27 team in the country. No, not country, state rather.
The state, right?
27th team in the state is number 4 and 6. What
Who
was
that put the some? I don't want to call out names, but
no,
I was like,
no. I saw it too. I was like, it was like a record scratch. You're just like, okay, wait. Did you say Lehigh was 22nd?
Slow down.
Yeah. Sweet. What's Lehigh's? What's their mascot? Isn't
the Pioneers? I think
yeah.
Pioneers. We got some weird like the cavemen and the beat diggers and the
Beavers.
The Beavers. Yeah, 1A the 1A Beavers. Yeah. Fort Collins, Colorado, by the way, home of the Colorado State University, the Harvard of the Rockies, who defeated UNC this evening. Sorry, had to get that in. They have the Fort Collins High School Lambkins.
Hey, love it.
The Lambkins. Pioneers isn't a weird name though. That's a solid one. So Lehigh, I mean, I'm excited. They're going to be at the Hoop Fest as well down there playing. I'll pull up their schedule while you're all talking about them. But let's give Lehigh some love. Lehigh's got to be another one of those teams in 6A that's gonna be there. So let's break it down a little bit.
Go ahead, LC. What you got?
So I haven't had a lot of time to watch the guys over at Lehigh, so I don't know a ton about them. Obviously, the standout names, Dre is always mentioned as far as the guys that you've got to watch for. He's a name that you keep hearing. The regions realigned, and so now with them being in the region with American Fork, Pleasant Grove, who else is in that region? Corner Canyon's not in that region, but Lone Peak is in that region. Westlake, Sky Ridge. Obviously, the competition is there. He's going to have an opportunity to really make an even bigger name for himself. And then I think Easton is a name that I've heard quite a few times over the past 4 or 5 months through the spring and summer. So I don't know a ton about him. I know they've got some guys that can go over there, but I don't know a ton about them because I haven't had a chance to watch them play.
And I misspoke. Lehigh's not at Hoop Fest, so apologies for that. But Lehigh's got a young guard too that I watched play against Judge at the Great Western Classic. I didn't catch the kid's name. I think he's a class of 2027 kid, and he did not. When I say he didn't miss, that's not like an exaggeration. He had to have gone 7 for 7 from 3, and I mean he was strong. I was like, who on earth is this kid? I'll look up his name. I mean he's like the 2nd or 3rd ranked kid on Prep Hoops for 2027. I found out, but they've got a squad. AJ, why don't you talk a little bit about Lehigh?
Yeah, I think you're talking about Ashton Schul is the guy. He's about 6'3" combo guard.
Yeah, he was tough.
Yeah, they have guys everywhere. Obviously, they're very well coached.
Yep.
We know that about Lehigh. Grayson Brousseau, obviously he's a very good football player, but he's a bruiser. He provides them depth on the inside. Cooper Lewis really makes this team go. He's a dynamic point guard. He can shoot off the pull-up outside the 3-point range, can distribute the basketball. But Easton Hawkins is a kid that I expect a big leap from. I watched him play in some secret black op runs this fall, and he looks great. He's moving well. He can shoot the ball. He can get to the bucket. He'll add something that they didn't have last year. And if you look at those three, you got Grayson, you got Cooper, you got Easton on the wing. Lehigh, and they're very well coached. Lehigh they're gonna have something to say at the end of this. They are a very good team, and they can line up with anybody that's in front of them. American Fork, Corner Canyon, and you better watch out because they could push you. They could send you home quick because they have some guys. Cooper Lewis is more than capable of putting up 30 on anybody in the state of Utah.
I watched them play. They played Duncanville last year or 2 years ago, maybe with Anthony Black. And that game was highly competitive. It came down to the end. Duncanville pulled away, but it's not like, you know, the now point guard for the Orlando Magic was out there just, you know, running around doing whatever he wanted to. They play defense well. They play on a string. They play together. You can tell they're very well coached. So, all right, number 3. So speaking of the Hoop Fest, Lone Peak is playing Monday versus Chicago Simeon. But Monday night at 8 o'clock, Montverde plays Wasatch Academy. So if you want to see Isaiah Harwell against Cooper Flagg on ESPN down at Pleasant Grove, that is a week from yesterday. So in 6 days, that's a pretty awesome opportunity for us here in Utah to be able to see not only teams like, you know, Chicago and Sunrise Christian plays Alta, these historically big time great high school programs coming here is really cool. So Lone Peak, gonna be part of this. You know, this was new information to me, not per this, but I didn't realize that Ty was a kid that was part of the Utah Legacy team when AJ played, and I got to coach Ty a little bit, been watching him actually physically grow. Like, we would have teams go, no, he's not, he's way too old to be playing here. I'm like, he's only 12. Like, he's always been this big kid with a big body. He's a really good football player. And so him transferring over is not the story, right? But it certainly helps. As I said here, he adds depth. He's a wide. He played cornerback. He's like a 6'7" defensive back and wide receiver. So he moves really well. And he's put in some work on the basketball court. But obviously we've got, you know, Chamberlain Burgess and Ike Staley. So who wants to start talking about Lone Peak here? It can't be me, even though my last name is kind of close. I can't be the Lone Peak talking. Sorry, I'll stop. We can cut it. Get the producers to cut that part. That was a terrible joke. No, we're live.
You can edit that out.
Dang it, we're still live. All right, go ahead.
I love Chamberlain's game. I got to watch the prospects play quite a bit over the spring and summer. He's such a well-rounded basketball player. He can contest shots. He blocks shots without fouling. He's a very physical guy when it's time to box out. But then you could tell that since the end of the season, he's added different things offensively, which have really made him a matchup problem. And he did it on a national stage in the 3SSB level. He was super fun to watch. And then Ike he's another one of those guys that knows how to impact the game every time he touches the court. I think with those two guys alone, they're going to be formidable, but then they've got such a great supporting cast around those guys. I would be drastically surprised if Lone Peak isn't in the Final Four, but you know, that's why we play the games, and that's why we have a tournament to see what happens and go from there. But that's a super talented, super deep, super tall, super physical group over there at Lone Peak, and they're gonna win more games than they're gonna lose. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to call this Lone Peak will be the 6A champions next year. It won't be this year. And so when you look at this group, I mean, Landon talked about Chamberlain Burgess. I am so high on Chamberlain. I watched him play like Landon did up close, and he is tough. And he's added a lot to his game. He can go left hook, he can go right hook, he can finish. Ike Staley is going to be the key with this group, as he was last year. He had a great year last year. Can he get in the lane? And when he does, he's really tough to defend because he just shoots over top of people. You saw that in the state tournament quite a bit. Jackson Taylor's a guy you're going to want to pay attention to, because if you don't, he'll probably put 6 or 7 threes on your head. I think he had a 40-point game if I'm not losing my mind down at Section 7. Cogswell is a little bit raw, but he's a big body. You got Simon at the point guard who's just going to distribute that basketball. They're very good. They're very good. I think their time is coming. I just don't think it's going to be this year. They're going to win a lot of games, but I'm going to put it in the books for next year. I'm putting my chips in. They're taking home the chip next year as a senior with that group. I like them.
They also play Timpview on Wednesday the 22nd. That could be a fun matchup. So All right, we're getting down here to the last two. So we've got American Fork, which is not to be confused with Spanish Fork. For those of you who are new, those are different. Those are different places. I also find it fun. Different forks. I find it fun to say that they are tough AF, as the kids would say. I really should go to sleep. It's but I mean, there's a lot that we could probably say, especially with someone like Diego transferring down from Cyprus, who's just another Mulford kid who's just an absolute, like, you cannot leave that kid open. And then you had obviously the players right here, right? We talked about Tiger at the outset committing up to Weber State. Blake he's at CSI, correct? Is that where
he'll be at CSI?
Yeah. So loaded with college talent. Really well coached. I forget they play somebody. Oh, they play Montverde on Tuesday. So look for this American Fork team on the 21st against what is likely one of the greatest high school teams potentially to ever play in the history of high school basketball in that Montverde Academy. So that's going to be exciting. What can we say that maybe hasn't already been said about, not by me, but just by by everybody in and around Utah high school basketball, this American Fork team?
So the thing with American Fork is Ryan Cuff does an amazing job at preparing his boys before the season. Yes, they're playing Mountford next week. In Border League, they also played Sierra Canyon a couple weeks ago. Size. They have size. So the point guard is 6'5". They also have Jax Clark, sophomore, who will come in off the bench at 6'8". And then they've also got, Reese Dent, who transferred over from Wasatch, 6'8". And then they've got Justin, who's 6'7". They've got Blake at 6'7" and Xander at 6'8". And these aren't big, goofy 6'7", 6'8" guys. These are skilled, athletic, coordinated, high IQ guys. They are going to be a matchup problem for 25 games for whoever they get on the court with. Tiger is probably one of the most unselfish point guards I've ever got to watch play. He's going to have tons of weapons around him, bigs that can post, bigs that can stretch the floor, guards that can hit shots, create off the dribble. They're going to be tough. And if they're not the state champions in February, that number one team is going to be for sure.
Yeah, I mean, LC makes some great points there. I'm really high on American Fork. I think that if you look at last year's team to this year's team, a lot of the similarities are that they both had size, right? I think this year they're more athletic than they were last year. Reese Dent, obviously coming over from Wasatch, is a big, big deal. A lot of people they overlook him, but he can stretch the defense. He can pull them out. He can shoot threes. He can run the floor. We know what Tiger Cuff's about. He's fantastic. Diego can shoot it. There's another kid that you're going to want to pay attention to. I think his name is Jake Mulholland. Super smooth. Another guy that can just flat out go. Jax Clark, you mentioned his name earlier. Another young gun coming up. I've watched him play quite a bit this summer. And then obviously, the leader of that team, in my mind, Blake Rawson, he's going to take the charges. He's defensively he's going to get nasty. He's going to provide that edge for them. And then you have somebody that's just such a smooth operator as Tiger Cuff. I'm really high on American Fork. I don't know how I pick against them. And if I did, I think Blake would come for me. But they are tough, and they're very well coached, right? Like the accountability is there, even with, obviously Coach Cuff's son playing on the floor. Like, you could see it. We played at American Fork last year. There's accountability across the board. And I think that translates towards the end of the season when it's tournament time, when it's time to go. They have guys, but they're going to play the right way and they're going to buy in. And I think they're going to be ready to rock and roll come tournament time. That's a scary, scary scene.
Before we get to number one, I have a question. So I kind of floated this. Obviously, this is not going to happen this year. But let's say that Alta was in 6A. Where do you think you would have them in on this top 10? Would you have them?
If we're talking this year's Alta team against these 6A teams, they're still a top 5 team. They are loaded.
You'd have them
They
3.
are absolutely loaded. And Alta's team this year can compete with any
That's what I'm
6A
saying.
team in the state.
Yep.
Top 5 easy.
Yep.
I think their starters can. I think when you go to the bench and I love guys like Zach Papke. I love guys like Dash Reiser. I think that when you look at American Fork's depth, you look at what Corner Canyon has depth wise. I think that puts them a little bit ahead of them. But I would slot them right there at 3. And when you have a guy like Ace Reiser running the point, anything can happen. They're more than capable of knocking off any of those top 2 teams for sure.
And I think Ace got he got an offer right recently. CSI.
Or committed. Go to CSI too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another. I didn't know anything. I would have never known that there was a College of Southern Idaho, or if you said Slick, I'd be like Slick Rick the Ruler. Like I wouldn't have known this stuff, but it's so cool to have like really high level basketball at the JUCO level and options for kids who are being recruited here to go there, to get better, to get poured into, to get invested into, and then go take that next leap. All right. So number 1 is they're playing also are they playing in the football 6A football championship as well? Okay.
Oh yeah.
I don't. You guys say that like I should know. You're like
it's the Corner Canyon Invitational.
They are.
Yeah.
I don't. Yep. I mean, when I moved here, we were looking at a house in South Jordan, and the guy's like, it's in the Bingham School District. And I was like, the Cherries? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what does Bingham mean? He's like, you don't know about the Bingham School District? I'm like, I barely know my way around here. Like, I don't know the grid system. So I still feel pretty new. Obviously, Corner Canyon is up here at number 1. They not only return a whole bunch of great talent, arguably the outside of, I think that Brody could compete with, the guys at Wasatch, the guys at, he's going to the University of Southern California. Like that's pretty big time. Fresh off of leading the prospects to the 17U3 SSB championship. It was awesome. They came out and I got to watch them scrimmage Judge. And that was a ton of fun to watch. It was a great game. It was pretty close. I think they pulled out. They beat us by 5. They were getting warmed up. Noah Bettinger was still coming off of his injury, so he didn't play. But this team they're pretty loaded as well, right? Like I don't think anyone who would be complaining, except for maybe Lone Peak fans, about a Corner Canyon American Fork 6A championship game. Another kid that we talked about, AJ, was Brighton Valdez, who is, I think that's an underrated pickup coming from Juan Diego, because he does a tremendous job at 2 critical things at the point guard position. He doesn't turn it over, and he gets his team into its offense quickly, and he knows how to keep guys in front of him and fight over screens. He is so tough on both sides of the ball. I didn't realize it until I watched him play. And I know he went down to that border league and got a little, Ball is Life, got a couple of those videos. So that was pretty cool. But I mean, Noah, Brighton, and then Darrell, the big guy coming over as well from Juan Diego. This team is pretty stacked here for sure. Landon, what do you want to jump in here and add?
So a few days after we play American Fork, we get Corner Canyon. So
that's the easy part of your schedule. But when does the hard part of your schedule start, Landon?
When does it get competitive? Give us some competitive games. What's going on in the schedule department?
I mean, I can call up my friends over at ICS if you.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it off camera. Stacked is an understatement. Brighton, Noah, Brody. I love that they mentioned Tyler Mortensen. I call him Moneyball Mortensen. He probably shot 50% from the 3-point line for me over the spring and summer. And then when it was time to put the ball on the ground and create for his teammates, he did it effortlessly. Guards multiple positions. He's a young guy. He's in his sophomore year, and his future has just unlimited potential. So I'm super excited for Tyler and to watch his development and get to coach against him twice this year. But that group is just another really, really well coached team, a really deep program. And Darrell Desire, if you guys didn't get to watch him play at Section 7 or at Border League, the kid is just, he's a man. If you wonder what it would have been like to watch guys like just freak athletes with upper body strength, explosion, the ability to block shots, and just guys that do all the things that other guys physically can't do. That's Darrell. So we're
He's
gonna
got
have
a
our
couple
hands
D1
full.
offers too, right?
He
got
has 7. So
Who
yeah,
put his-
he played with the Rebels, Salt Lake Rebels. Had a really good off season. Just a super stacked group over there. And obviously Brody Kozlowski is the head of the snake. Everything will run through him, but he's got so many good teammates out there that can step up and go for 15, 10, 5 a game, and then the guard play got a boost. And that's saying a lot because the guard play last year was exceptional. Max Toombs and Jackson were amazing last year, but they have more guards to spread out that offensive workload. And so they look like a Division I team out there, and they're going to be a challenge for us and for everybody else that has to play them, but we're excited about it. And we front load that non-region schedule to get us ready for games like this. So they're going to be fun to watch, but my opinion is a Bingham Corner Canyon State Championship game. That's
All
what
right.
I'm calling.
You're calling
I'm calling it.
There
Hey,
you go.
you got to ride with your boys. You got it.
Hey, I mean, if anybody who knows that region that they were in before with AF and what was it? One year it was 4 schools from the same region in the Final Four, and so anything's possible. But yeah, we're excited for that challenge for sure.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Corner Canyon, I mean, Landen said it. I mean, they've got guys all the way up and down the lineup. Obviously, it starts with Brody Kozlowski. I expect his points per game to increase. At the same time, you got a guy like Noah Bendinger coming off a season for Juan Diego where he averaged 19 points a game. I expect his production to decrease a little bit, but he'll have some games when he's fully healthy where he can go get you 25 in a heartbeat because he can just light it up.
He's
and
a
then
scorer.
obviously I'm very high on Brighton Valdez and what he brings. I got a chance to watch him operate in the Border League and obviously at the Great Western Classic. He's a little engine for that team, and I really like what he brings for them. When you look at some of the guys, Taylor Farrell can shoot the lights out. They got guys just everywhere. I look at this as a Corner Canyon American Fork Championship game. I might have Layton sneaking in there and knocking one of those two off, but I'm going to go with American Fork to cut the nets down. 6A champions, American Fork. I don't want any smoke from Blake and those boys over there. I'm riding with those guys. I want to see them get it done. I just think that they have the versatility to match up, well with Corner Canyon. I think that guys like Reese Dent who can step out, shoot the three. And then obviously the size at the guards with American Fork it's going to be tough to handle. Tigers taking that next level. I really like what they got. And so I'm going to go against Bingham on this one. I think American Fork is going to be there at the end. But if all 3 of those boys at Layton get it right, watch out because KJ is capable of shooting you out of the gym. David can take your best player and put him on the bench for the whole game. He's that guy defensively. They have some guys that they can go. And so it's an exciting year. I mean, 6A is going to be a great time to watch. And then Region 1 is full of guys. Obviously got Layton, but Davis and Farmington, and there's some there's teams everywhere. It's a great time.
No doubt. Well, gentlemen, it's getting to I'm officially mid 40s, and so we're coming up on bedtime for Papa Peak. So appreciate you both coming on. Everybody, if you get a chance, go to utahbasketball.net. It's free to all you put in your email, you subscribe, and it just sends you an email whenever I come out with a podcast, or I technically I could be like writing and publishing articles, but I do not have time to write and publish articles. So if you want to read some articles that are being published on a regular basis, like AJ said, go over to prephoops.com. Make sure you subscribe there. AJ, you just did your giveaway for Game Film Elite.
Yep.
And who won it again?
Jackson Slaw. So one of those Fremont guys that are going to be playing against. So we did a giveaway where he's going to have 3 games evaluated by a college coach, and then a live session with that coach. And we let Jackson know, and he was super excited. And he's ready. He's like, I was going to sign up anyway, and so now you just saved me a bunch of money. And so he was super excited, and we're excited to see how that goes for him and watch his improvement, because he's got tremendous skill. And sometimes it's just getting in front of the right people and getting the right advice, and then boom, there you go. So go over to GameFilmElite.com. Now that we have some games rolling in, you're getting that film going. We expect it's going to pick up pretty good. So we're excited about that project.
And also, everyone go follow Landen on Twitter. Landen is a great follow on Twitter. Are you at Coach Landen? Is that what it is?
Yeah, Coach Landen. Yep. Instagram and Twitter.
Instagram and Twitter. I know you got a whole bunch of stuff, whole bunch of things cooking over there. So everyone, make sure you go follow Coach Landen. Thanks everybody. Like I said, we'll be covering Hoop Fest, getting a couple of guests on from there. Trying to do a 4A preview, I think, with Hector Marquez. He's going to come on and help me go through
Dixie Invitational.
The Dixie Invitational. That's right. So that'll be that's another team we could have said, like, hey, where would they land if they played in 6A? You know, it could be a fun event. But anyway, I'm stoked for the Hoop Fest going down. Got some more stuff coming up, so appreciate everybody listening for an hour and 12 minutes us talk about Utah high school basketball. Thanks, Kev, for all the comments. Keep them coming. Anyone else listening, if you're watching on YouTube, I got to figure out how to do this. I feel like if we could live stream on Instagram, we'd get a lot more engagement. So I'll see if I can figure out how to do that from this platform. But appreciate everybody. Thanks, AJ. Thanks, Landen.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Yep.